All right, here we go. Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday night. Today's episode, we talk about shame and shame culture. Is shame necessary? What does it do for us? Does it help us? Does it hurt us? Does it stop us from being who we are? So, unfortunately, Bobby will not be with us tonight as he is on vacation. So, kudos to Bobby. But we have returning back with us Chris Francisque. This was originally Chris's idea to talk about this topic. So we'll welcome him on right now. Chris, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Oh, I'm good, man. I'm good. Well, actually, I'm incredibly exhausted. My daughter woke me up at 4:30 this morning, but that's my fault because I brought her into this world. Yes. And we have with us Jesse Daniels. How's it going, buddy?
Hey, everybody. How's it going?
So I was just watching the news, and it sounds like the vaccines are rolling out. It sounds like this is the turning point in the whole COVID-19 business. I think in like the next, they've talked about the four phase plan or something like that. Yeah. So I don't know if you guys want to get into what you think about the vaccines, but I got mine, and Chris was with me the night that it was starting to kick in. I thought someone took a crowbar to my head. And then it turns out I got like the shittiest vaccine you could get. I got Covishield, which I don't think anybody's even heard of. It's like the president's choice. It's the no-name brand of vaccines. You know, the yellow shitty stuff you get. That's what I got in my body as a vaccine. So anyways, not sure what you guys think about the whole vaccines.
So I have maintained throughout this entire thing that I'm not going to, as of right now, be getting this vaccine just because it got rolled out so fast that I'm just like, I really feel like they're using people to sort of test it still. Because essentially any vaccine that has been properly developed usually takes quite some time before it's perfected. Like I'm talking about years before it's perfected. Now, for whatever reason,
but that's just how you collect evidence for something, right?
Well, yeah, because you have clinical trials, and you have to make sure that it's not going to, have a really bad reactions with people. And so, essentially, with this one, is they streamlined the clinical process, which is they essentially started phase 2 and phase 3 simultaneously with phase 1. Like you end one phase, you write down your results, you tweak whatever needs to be tweaked, and you start the next one. This one, they kind of just went along and were like adjusting sort of as each trial simultaneously went on with each other. That's how you were able to streamline it. And then so, everybody will, there are side effects to potential side effects to everything. But it seems like every other day, I'm seeing, even on mainstream media, blood clots and people getting paralyzed and he loves that word. And even people, that I work with, they're coming into work and they look awful. They're like, I feel drained. And I'm like, I've had many a vaccine in my lifetime. I'm by no means an anti-vaxxer. But I have never had a vaccine that has made me feel and look like that. And so I'm just like, what I say to people is that if all the people who got the vaccine are around by this time next year, I'll consider getting it.
There you go. Yeah. Now, what if you got a call and someone's like, Chris, we need you in Los Angeles right now for a shoot with Nicki Minaj. Can you be there? Do you have your vaccine, Chris?
Sure don't.
And you still wouldn't get it?
I'd be like, if you really want me that bad, listen, my mask and social distancing has been working for the last year and some change. I haven't been sick with not even like a cold or the sniffles in a year and some change. So clearly the mask and social distancing works. Yeah. And had we not had the vaccine, that's what we'd still be using. So,
So your answer is no. You're firm on the no vaccine.
If y'all are still around by this time next year, I'll consider it.
Yeah, well, I think only time will tell. Jesse, did you get yours yet? or have you signed?
Negative.
What are your thoughts on it?
I'm kind of torn as well. I'm kind of thinking that I want to do a little more research. I feel like something that was created in 7 months or however long it took, I don't necessarily trust. And I mean, that goes for anything. If you built me a car in 7 months and told me we just designed this like that today, I would have been like, okay, but does it work? And that's not necessarily me, not trusting the process. I trust our doctors. I trust I don't really trust our politicians, but I'm hoping that they're not, trying to get us all exterminated. But when it comes to something like a vaccine, I feel like we should trust the science. And the science isn't saying it's 100% effective right now. So, I mean,
not even that.
Here's the big thing,
it's not
and here's
100% effective. You could still get it. It doesn't protect against the variants, and you got to re-up on it all like every year. So why am I? Listen, when I get a measles shot, it's a one and done.
True. And you know what? The funny thing is, I had measles, or I had the shots as a kid. The mumps, measles, everything.
Mm-hmm.
I still got the mumps as an adult. I had a mild version, like 1 year, and I went to the doctor, and he was like, "You have the mumps." He looked at me like, "What the? You have the mumps?" Like, and I'm like, "What do you mean I have them? Didn't I get vaccinated for that as a kid?" And
how
like,
would you have
even?
How would so that it's the only way you got mumps is because the vaccine was ineffective, is what you're saying?
I guess so. And like the vaccine,
or did you not
vaccine from years ago? No, I did. My mom. I got vaccinated for everything under the sun.
That's true. Well, okay, so just to kind of counter it, because I'm already on the chopping block as far as waiting to see if this thing works, but not to be a conspiracy theorist, but in all the everything that's happened and where this thing came from and how that government works, not the people. I'm not talking about the people. I'm talking about the government of this country, which is China. I'm just going to say it. It's just like, this is like a bioweapon, or this very well could be a bioweapon. I'm not saying it was or it wasn't, right? So it's kind of like, who do I want to trust? Right. But in the words of Chris, it's like, he doesn't trust anybody. He's going to continue using his mask and his gloves. He's not going to trust our government's vaccines, right? Because of the science, not because he's, anti-government.
Yeah.
Although maybe a little bit are. And yeah.
Well, I also pay attention to messaging from the government, and what was a red flag to me that sort of echoed the Tuskegee Experiment. And if you don't know what that is, Google is your friend. But what stuck out to me was they were saying that we understand that the indigenous communities and the Black community are more affected by this, and so we want to make this available. Make sure that available to them first. When was the last time the government gave a fuck about either of those communities? Were they not just on their land, indigenous land, over the summer trying to get this pipeline? Were they not just allowing people to illegally take their lobster fisheries? And now all of a sudden you care so much about them that you want them to get it first? Fuck out of here.
Again, I can't disagree with you on that. Like,
he's got a good point.
Yeah. I'm like, when was the last time they gave a fuck about indigenous people? You were on their land that you stole from them, then said you can have this much that is protected. Oh, but now you know what? We changed our mind because we need this land to build this pipeline that nobody wants. So, it's ours again. And now we care so much about the indigenous community that we want to make sure they get this vaccine first. That's code for, we want to test this on you first to see if anything happens.
Well, I even think that the whole notion of students that I work with, they think that a reserve is like the way that it was. So most indigenous nations were nomadic, meaning that they moved around, semi-nomadic, not nomadic, So the fact that you're taking a nation that's how they lived and you're putting them on plots of land and you think that that's going to work. Clearly it didn't, right? Yeah. And then you're right. The Tuskegee Experiment, Chris, I'm just going to attempt to answer this based on my knowledge of this, was that they took syphilis, examples of live syphilis, and they experimented on the poor Black communities of Tuskegee, which is that Alabama?
Yes.
I'm not sure.
Southern
Anyway,
United States for sure. Yeah.
Southern United States, and this is during the 50s. So this is after the Second World War, and this is a primary reason why ethics were introduced, right, into academia, because these scientists, it was like experiment. It's like how the Nazis experimented on the Jews during the Holocaust.
Yes.
To, in terms of diseases and things like that, which resulted in the death of millions of Jews and thousands from these experiments. The same thing was done using syphilis in the Black community to see how they would react. Right.
And clearly in your case, I don't know if I'm allowed to say what you told me about your particular vaccine that you got. But it was recalled 3 days before and they still gave it to you.
Oh yeah.
So when people say that shit that, the government, you can trust them and everything like that, I don't know about that.
When do you think it was in history that we stopped trusting our government? I'm going to give you my answer first, just to preface this. I think we really stopped trusting the the government when the invasion of Iraq. But that's, for me, that's kind of when I see it.
Nixon.
Yeah. Well,
I'm going to take it a step further back.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it was literally the point where we stopped trusting our government was when we could start proving that they were lying. And that, maybe we didn't trust them before that, but we had no proof. Like, I was watching this documentary on Netflix the other day, and it's a conspiracy documentary, so not all of it was true. But they were talking about how certain political leaders and kings and, whatever else, they would use body doubles. They would have some guy that looked like them that would go to, a rally or something, or he'd be driving the car through the city and everyone would be waving at him. And half the time, apparently, a lot of them would be body doubles, because there was no photographic evidence to say that it couldn't be that person. So you would say, hey, that doesn't look like him, but how are you going to prove it?
Yeah.
So now we can prove it. And now everyone's like, hey, wait a minute. Like,
so to Chris's point, but like, I see what you're saying, like, people are starting to, but it really became apparent with all the information. And you mentioned the Watergate conspiracy. And I think you're right. That's when, because he lied about it, and then he came out and said, "Yeah, I did it." But
it's like, you can go through several moments in history, and it's like, has the government ever lied to get things accomplished? Whether it was, we want to start this war, 9/11. Whether it was like, we want certain gains of something, has the government ever lied to its people? And the answer is yes. So my question is, for people that are just so quick to be like, no, the government knows what it's doing with this vaccine. It knows. And it's just like, look through history. First of all, know what you're putting in your body. Please research it. Research the things that they say are in the vaccine. At least research that, because everybody's body chemistry is a bit different in how you'll react to it. But also know that, yes, the government does lie a lot. How many times have we seen, Trudeau in a scandal and things of that nature, people embellishing or half truths and things of that nature. So yes, the government lies all the time. Now, whether or not they're lying, about the efficacy of this vaccine and what it's going to do, I don't know, but I'm just not personally willing to take that chance with something I'm putting in my body, given everything that I know that the government has done in the name of progress. So that's why, for me, I'm just like, if the majority of y'all, and I'm not shaming people who are getting the vaccine, by the way, if the majority of y'all want to get the vaccine, kudos to you. I'm just not going to do that right now, because if I'm not 100% comfortable with something you are injecting in my body that has not been, in my opinion, thoroughly tested, like smallpox, measles, vaccines that have been, tested for a very long time, I'm not putting that in my body, especially when the mask and social distancing is working quite fine for me.
Touche. So my counter to that, though, is but the medical community seems to mostly embrace this.
Oh yes, because they can't be influenced at all.
Right. But
Big
if
Pharma, can't be influenced at all.
there you go. Yeah. I mean, you could buy shares in Pfizer.
Who's paying them
Interesting how
off?
that works.
Yeah. Damn.
So, guys, our conversation today was supposed to, or is going to be, not supposed to be.
Yes.
It's about shaming. And I think that kind of, this ties in perfectly to that, because what's the biggest thing that people are shaming each other for right now is whether you're going to get vaccinated or not.
Yeah.
I would actually counter that we're shaming each other over difference of opinion.
Well,
which
that's
includes
the
vaccine,
root of it,
but that's exactly,
that's
the masks.
Yeah.
That's the masks. That's but I'm just saying that's been a common theme throughout this whole thing. Hello, Mike Larson. What's going on? Yeah. So, but but that's a great segue, because you're right.
Well, it was
why do we do that? Why do we do that? Why do we do this?
I think it stems from insecurity. If you have to shame someone without even asking the question of why do you feel this way, and not even let a person finish their answer, or, even if they explain it to you and you still don't fully understand, it's not a cause to shame someone because you don't understand their reasoning for it. You're trying to, I think it stems from insecurity, is that maybe perhaps you don't have the mental fortitude to question as that person does. And instead of just being like, oh, you know what, that's actually admirable that this person is not just jumping the gun and doing this thing. Instead, you're just like, no, let me shame this person because it'll makes me feel more comfortable that I'm doing the right thing. But deep down, it's like, maybe I should have asked these questions before I did this.
Yeah. Jesse, do you want to answer?
Yeah. I personally think a lot of times that you're shaming somebody, it's deeply rooted in, and I mean, I'm just going to say this isn't every time, but a lot of the time it seems to be you're shaming somebody because of something or some character trait that you used to personify and maybe you don't have anymore. Like, you know what? Some people, I do it myself all the time. I remember saying, I can't believe people just go and, drink and party and black out and whatever else. And I'm just sitting there like, dude, you did this like 5 years ago. What are you talking about? But somehow
and you had
I see
a great
myself
time most
in
of the
them.
time.
I had a great time, but I see myself in them, and maybe I'm not looking at the great times. Maybe when I see them drunk on the ground, or maybe a different example, I'm seeing all the negative times in my own personal life and my own personal trauma, and that's reminding me of that, and that's my distaste, and that's my discomfort, and that's maybe why I'm shaming them, is because really I'm just embarrassed of how I used to be, or I mean. That's what I think people like to shame each other for.
Yeah.
So I'm going to piggyback off that, because that's a great point. And then after this, let's try and define shame, because it helps to have our definitions before moving forward for us individually. But what always annoys me is people who are in Alcoholics Anonymous, right? And they've been sober for, X amount of years, and I'm very happy for them. But then the way that they speak about people, not all, obviously, people who have been sober for an extended period of time, but some, how they speak of practicing alcoholics or whatever in such like disparaging ways, like, he's like, this person's a mess, and like they can't get their shit together, and what it seems like they're doing is they're almost like justifying their own like their own belief system, like partying is bad and I have to stay sober, and anybody who's participating in that, I have to make it inferior to my own practices. I don't know. I have such a problem with that. I don't know if you guys notice that, but to me, it's like shame is people trying to, again, the insecurities in their own beliefs and virtues. And it's a form of manipulation. In some cases, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the people who become sort of holier than thou once they've conquered whatever it is their vice was, and then can't extend the empathy that they wish people had given them. That's a a personality flaw in that person, because you shouldn't be attacking it that way. Of
course.
But yeah, I think, yeah, it's your shame is just sort of, I think, your inability to conquer that which makes you insecure. Because as what I always say is that, especially nowadays when you have people, they, whatever prefix you want to use, whether it is fat shaming, slut shaming, kink shaming, whatever thing shaming, what I always say is that no one can shame you for something that you are already not ashamed of. So if you are confident within yourself, you're confident with the way you look, the way you dress, there's nothing that anybody can say to me. And a perfect example is Omari. Omari, I love that man, but he dresses like he hasn't paid his taxes in several years. He just, every time I'm like, Omari,
does that mean he's been audited or he got audited? Like,
no, it just means he dresses like a default character in a video game where it's just a t-shirt and jeans and no other customizations. And I'm like,
yeah,
Omari, for the love of God, try a bit. And he's like, I don't care. He's like, I'm married. She chose me. I'm fine with the way I look. And I'm just like, and that's what I'm saying.
You can't shame this man.
I resonate with that man.
There's no way that I could ever shame.
Look at what I'm wearing. This is my shirt collection.
Yeah. But
I'm a dad.
Completely secure within himself.
Yeah.
So there's nothing that I could say or anyone else could say that is going to make him, ashamed of, of how he dresses. And the same is therefore true. Like, that's why I can't stand, I think the big one nowadays, like, fat shaming. And take it from someone who comes from West Indian, specifically Haitian culture, where West Indian culture in general is shame is how we get things done. And I remember going back to university. I graduated high school and then I went to university in Montreal, and I was living with my grandmother. And back then I was a little bit, call myself a bit of a Campbell soup. I was a little chunky. And I remember, my grandmother had baked a pie, and we were at the table, we were eating. I finished my first slice, and then I went back for a second one. And then she came up, as I was cutting the pie, she came up behind me, had a fork in her hand. As I'm cutting, puts the fork into my hand and says, I think you've had enough. And that was the first, and I was not used to that because I was like, oh, I hadn't, I've never lived with my grandmother. And then I remember she was speaking on the phone with one of her friends. And then I'm my bedroom is at the bottom, was on the basement floor. And she was on the second floor. And from my bedroom, I can hear her talking. And then she goes, in her Haitian accent, she goes, Christopher, let me tell you something about that. When you hear a Haitian do that, nothing good will follow that sound. That is a sound of just disapproval and just, oh my God, something bad is about to follow this. So she says that. Now I'm listening at the bottom of the stairs. So she goes, Christopher. She never calls me Christopher, by the way, my full name. That's when I know I fucked up. And then she goes, Li memotel memgosel, which if I'm translating from Creole goes, he's as tall as he is wide, to her friend on the phone. And I was just like, holy shit. And at that point is when I knew I was like, okay, I need to fix my body up a bit. But I could have never felt bad about it had I not initially been feeling like, you know what, my body's not where it needs to be right now. So you can't shame somebody for something that whether they want to admit it or not, whether they are covering it with overcompensation. Like the big thing now is where we sort of live in this delusion that like let's take Lizzo, for example, who is morbidly obese. She is a morbidly obese woman, and people are acting like it's this brave thing that she's stepping out in ill-fitting clothing. And I'm not saying degrade her, but I'm saying it's very obvious to, to see when
This
somebody
isn't
is,
healthy.
it's not, first of all, it's not healthy. And people's favorite thing to say now is health at any size, and you don't know her medical history just by looking at her. And so I asked my cousin,
Well,
who's a
that's not true.
bariatric.
You could be too skinny or too big.
Exactly, it works either
Right?
ways. But I
You can
asked my
die.
cousin, who's a bariatric surgeon who deals with weight, and I was just like, so I asked him, I was like, okay, let's take for example Lizzo and her weight specifically. Is health at any size possible? And just by looking at her, is she healthy? And what he said to me was, while I can't tell you what her exact medical history and conditions are, if she doesn't get rid of this weight, she's delaying the inevitable. She's already a Black woman, which means she's predisposed to diabetes, hypertension, high blood pressure, heart disease, and you're adding weight onto your body and you're exacerbating. So if she doesn't have it now, it's coming in the future. And this is a bariatric surgeon who deals with weight specifically. So, and people now do this thing where they sort of live in this delusion, and it's like, no, you're fat shaming her, you're doing this. And it's just like, I can't shame you for something that internally you don't already feel.
Mm-hmm.
If you already are ashamed of your weight, that manifests itself in many different ways. And one of them is overcompensating, to be like, no, I'm completely fine with it. I'm a beautiful, fat, Black woman. And it's people like, whether it was Star Jones, who was a host on The View, who was morbidly obese. And she famously says that she was just like, I was so uncomfortable in my body, but I didn't want people to know that. So I was this larger than life, the sassy fat Black woman to make people think I was okay with it. But she was like, when I was getting mic'd up for the show, I would have them mic it up far away so that they couldn't hear my breathing because it was so bad. So it's shit like that. Like same thing with whether you want it's slut shaming. If you are happy with fucking 20 people a week, there's no way that I can shame you for that. The only way I can shame you is if deep down inside you know what? I don't want to be doing this. And I don't feel good about what I'm doing. That's the only way you can shame someone. That's what I feel.
Yeah, because even if there's that kernel of a thought there, kind of like you and your grandmother, for them to say that, and then it's like, psh. So here's the other thing then, like, if that's something that you're insecure of, like but then where's the line then? If you can't shame somebody who can't be ashamed. How did you say that again?
You can't shame someone for something that they are not already ashamed of.
Right.
So if you are happy and proud of being morbidly obese, there's nothing that anyone else can say to you, much like Omari with his clothes. There's nothing that anyone else can say to you to make you feel that way. If I'm completely fine with the way I look, I'm happy. But, case in point, every other day, Lizzo will post half-naked picture. I love my body. And then 2 days later, I'm so, I'm not happy with how I am right now. You're contradicting yourself. You can't have it both ways. So yeah, if someone is shaming you and you feel ashamed, you were already ashamed before that person said anything anyway.
I was talking to Jerry Fialka yesterday, who worked extensively with Frank Zappa, who is a genius, by the way. The guy was way ahead of his time. And he was talking about, but some of the greatest art and jokes are contradictions. So I know you say you can't have it both ways, but isn't that not kind of the human experience? Isn't that what we're always kind of after, is to have both those things? We love choices, right? But sometimes our choices can mean our own demise.
Yeah, and I mean, as long as you're aware of that and you're not trying to masquerade it as something else, I just like it when the logic remains consistent. So if you are, body positivity and you are all about that, then stop trying to seek validation from outside sources. When I see people posting half naked on Instagram and stuff like that, you are seeking validation from an outside
100%.
source, because I don't need to post a whole bunch of stuff. Like, as an actor, I have to be honest with myself. There is a part of me that as an actor is seeking a form of validation from an audience.
Feedback.
As an artist, I'm sensitive about my stuff. And there's a part of me that's like, yeah, I hope this is received well. And I hope people like what I'm doing. But to say like, I'm not doing this for your validation, that's a lie. Then you wouldn't be doing it. There's no reason for you to be half naked on Instagram showing everything if you're not looking, because guess what? If you only get 2 comments versus the 300 that you're used to getting about, oh my God, you're so hot, this is going to play in your brain a bit.
100%.
You know?
Isn't that a song? That was a song by the Chainsmokers. It was like a selfie. Like,
Oh,
I didn't
yeah.
get 20 likes in this picture. I should take it down.
Yeah.
Selfie.
You're seeking validation, you know?
Well,
Yeah.
there's Bobby, a 3-headed monster of beauties right here. Bobby.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess I
Hey,
didn't
Bob.
leave that up long enough.
Hey.
Yeah, no, you're
So,
but then influencers on, like, here's the other thing, the influencers on social media, like, you have to be a very secure person to do that, because when you're putting that stuff out there, man, people are vicious. Like, you should see some of the things. It's like, did you
some people
ponder,
spend their time just like sitting in
Yeah,
your
like,
inbox.
how much energy did you put into
Like-
this
like our
awful
Talib.
comment?
Yeah.
Oh man, that guy's fighting Nazis all day. I mean,
Every
those are
day.
trolls. Those are trolls.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay, I know what you're doing. You're just trying to waste my time and attention.
But that trolls do
just-
that. They have that. That's their main ability, and their main weapon is shame and making you feel bad.
But
Like,
if you were, notice how you can never see really the troll on the other side, that they're either private or it's not their picture. They're usually trolling you based off of something that they are, again, feeling internally. They're ashamed of themselves, and they're just taking it out on you to make themselves feel better. But, you know, for me, I will say that negative emotions for me, and specifically shame, works. I make it work in my favor. So the thing is, if you no longer want to feel ashamed about whatever, if it's a look thing, that's easily fixable. Anything that you're ashamed of can be fixed. So for me, I was just like, when my grandmother said that, because she's so, if you think I'm, you know, brutally honest, there is no honesty like that of a Haitian woman. They do not care about your feelings. This is what it is. And West Indians in general, they'll comment on how you look, because that's just the type of culture we have. So I realized, I was just like, yeah, why is this making me feel this way? Is it the fact that my grandmother said it? Or is it the fact that she just brought up to the surface that which I was pushing down, which was, your body doesn't look right now, and you know that, and you're just trying to use all of these excuses to make it okay. But it's, you know, when it's somebody super close to you that brings that back up, then you're forced to sit with that. And then I was just like, you know what? I don't like the way that I am ashamed that I've let, you know, myself get to whatever point. So now I can fix it. So for me, shame is a tool that, if used correctly, brings change and can make you evolve.
Yeah, part of it is necessary.
Mm-hmm.
So Jesse, sorry, but you go ahead and say it, because I have it written down. So sorry, go ahead and say it. You're going to say something, Jesse. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I was literally just going to say, so you're saying that shame can be a good thing in time. It's something that helps you drive. It drives you. It's ambition in maybe a negative way, but it works.
Yeah. If you're truly ashamed to the point where it's, let's say, crippling you, then you have to examine it and be like, you know what? I'm not going to let this, you know, either I'm going to deal with the fact that I am ashamed about it, but it can be changed, whether if it's weight, it's the amount, or if it's the amount of sexual partners that you have, if it is the way, whatever it is that shame, the prefix before shame comes, is that you feel ashamed of, anything can be fixed. And if it's that bad for you, you need to examine why. And I understand there are societal pressures and everything like that, but, you know, at the end of the day, if you're secure within yourself, there is nothing that anyone can shame you for that you already, it's just, the person is just merely bringing it up to the surface where you were trying to push it down.
So, okay. So what's more important, to speak the truth or to protect one's feelings?
Truth, always. Always. That's my opinion. Truth always.
Yeah. I mean, there's some there's some truths that are gonna hurt, and the truth never seems to be the thing that feels good. It always seems like the bad things feel good. You know, lying feels it better, or the bad things that we're not supposed to do feel better. But yeah, truth. I have to say, even though it sucks, truth.
Well,
Okay, well,
you're saying at the beginning of the thing that, you know, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. You know, that's the same thing as you know, there's a way to be truthful, and also you don't have to be an asshole, but truth, you should not
Yeah.
spare truth at the expense of potentially hurting, especially if your heart is in the right place, potentially hurting someone's feelings. Because again, and there are many, and you feel free to throw them out, there are many different forms of shaming, but let's just choose fat shaming. If you are withholding that which is true to spare that person's feelings, are you going to feel better if you said nothing and it leads to their death, and you're at their funeral and you're like, oh, had I maybe just been honest? Because I'm just thinking, like, I was by no means morbidly obese or anything like that, but I was dealing with sleep apnea, which is when you're sleeping, you just stop breathing. And then when I lost the weight, guess what? Sleep apnea wasn't there anymore. But imagine had my grandmother not said anything, and you know, that day, what if I had just let myself keep going? And especially as a Black man, I'm predisposed, especially my family, to diabetes, and you know, it runs through my family. Imagine now, had she not said anything and not made me be like, why am I ashamed of this? Maybe then, you know, I wouldn't be here. So I don't think sparing truth to you know, at the expense of someone's feelings is the way to go, because then you're just helping them live in a delusion.
So what you're saying is that shame can exist in this world without being a terrible thing that we all kind of look at it as. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be an insulting thing. It can be constructive criticism, and it depends on how you're going to take it.
It's all perspective, much like, you know, emotions like envy. It depends what you do with envy. If you're going to stew on envy and just hate on everybody else that has the thing that you want, of course that's negative. If you're going to use envy the way I do, which is to motivate you, I'm going to get that thing because I can. I'm going to work hard to save up or to do whatever the thing that it is that I want that the other person has. I use that to motivate me to now get it. You know, that it depends. It's entirely based on your perspective. If you're going to let shame deteriorate, you know, and eat away at you, then that's how you're dealing with it. But I just have always used shame as, if I feel ashamed about it, there's a reason, examine it, and now if it's that bad, change that thing that you're ashamed of.
And you seem like a pretty happy guy, so I mean, I'd say that shame's not breaking you.
Everybody needs a West Indian grandmother to keep it real with them. Everybody needs that.
My grandmother always fed me more. I don't know about yours, Rob, but like whenever I was done, it was like, do you want more food? Do you want more, more? It was never, you need to stop eating. It was, you need to eat more.
Right. Yeah, culturally, it's just different cultures. But yeah, it's just if you know, for her, she was always like, you know, because you know, what I said was, I remember I was kind of like mad at her a bit, and then I was just like, she noticed I was not really talking to her in the house, and then she was like, what's the issue? And I was like, you kind of hurt my feelings. And then she was just like, well, would you have rathered I said nothing, and then you continue to walk around looking like this and then develop health problems? So she said, at the end of the day, your feelings versus your health, irrelevant.
Yeah. So and to that, what I liked about, because you asked her, like, why would you say that? And she told you.
Yeah.
Right. But some people, and this is what's important that you're bringing up, was that some people, not everybody should be able to speak whatever they want. Like, it's all in how it's done. Right. Like, you know, if I made fun of the way someone speaks, well, they can't help that. Right. And you know, why am I saying that? Well, that's my insecurity. I'm being an asshole, right? Like, hurt people.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm saying is,
I got a point on that when you're done.
Yeah, but it matters who's saying it, right? Like,
yes,
not everybody can just say what they want,
and it matters your intent. Because if your intent is malice, if your intent is I want to damage this person, then probably shouldn't say anything. If your intent is on the more altruistic side, and you're like, I'm trying to help this person, and I'm concerned about this person. Like, again, if I saw my friend go to 350, 400 pounds, and I'm not saying anything, am I that person's friend? If I see my friend sleeping with 15 people a week, am I that person's friend? I'm not like, chill out. What are you doing? You know, if I'm, you know, whatever the thing that is the shame, if I don't say anything, am I really that person's friend? And sometimes you need to bring that up. And if the byproduct is shame, that has more to do with that person than it does with you.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Yeah.
Well, one thing that I love about you, Chris, is that I think, and maybe this is a cultural thing, but you are incredibly honest. The problem, well, not the problem for me is, first of all, I'm so incredibly sensitive, and there's no tones in text messages. So you'll say something, it's like, holy shit, man, he is pissed at me right now.
Right.
And then, but what you're just being honest about a situation. Whereas me, I'm like, whoa, because I'm seeing it through my perspective and how I've lived things. Right. And I don't know about you, Jesse, but in white culture, there's a lot of like, I experienced a lot of shame in my life. And because I was so sensitive, I took that as like, oh my God, like I'm such a loser or whatever. Right. But really it was like, you know, my dad growing up, his dad was like, you got to figure it out, man. Like, I can't baby you because the world's a cruel place. Whereas I grew up and I was like, man, why can't somebody like, why can't people be a little bit nicer? But they're trying to make us tougher because, again, nature can be cruel. And then we have kids nowadays that we're like, oh, we have to be so gentle, so soft. But then they're going to step into the real world where there's trolls, and the first thing they say to them, they're going to be like, "Oh my God!" Right? So, how do you
have to cancel them? They hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
I mean, we were actually saying we were going to define what shame is in this episode, and so I took it upon myself to Google it because, you know, that's what Chris always says to do. You should Google stuff. Shame is a painful feeling of humiliation or distress caused by the consciousness of wrong or foolish behavior. I'm going to take that. I'm going to say, whose behavior are you conscious of that is wrong or foolish, and why does it? Who are you really shaming here? I think that's a big question we have to ask ourselves when we do shame someone: is, am I pissed at them, or am I pissed at something in myself and it's causing me to lash out at people?
Shame, I'll take it a step further. Shame is when your mind and spirit are not aligning together, and one is telling the other that you should be here with me, and it's wandering away. And that's the thing, it's causing you internal distress, and it's something that's out of whack. It's not aligned properly. So it's usually your mind that's saying, you know better than this. Why are you doing this? But your ego or your feelings are wandering away to whatever is making you feel good at the time, whether it's overeating, overindulgence in sex, overindulgence in drugs, whatever the case may be. Your ego is wandering away from what your mind knows to be better, and it's creating this internal thing in you that is like, something is not right.
Conflict.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's like, I try to think of, in that definition you said, you know, something that is wrong. What is wrong? Like, is there a universal wrong, or is what's wrong in one culture right in another? So like, who determines?
Well, I mean,
what's
killing
wrong?
people is pretty bad.
Yeah, there are universal
I don't think
wrongs
there's ever a good
sure.
reason to kill someone.
Yeah.
No, you're right. You're right. Yeah. But then about like getting fat, is that wrong? Well, it depends what, you know, the health implications. So that's what makes it wrong, is that anything that could kill something or someone, is that what ultimately wrong is?
I wouldn't even necessarily kill someone, but it's like if you're talking about morally, or when you know somebody is not living up to their full potential and is hindering themselves, either health or either spiritually, and you can see it. If you're a person that cares, again, like I said, the shame is not, it's not something that the person who's speaking to the receiver can give. Shame exists within you already. The person who is speaking to you can merely bring it up to the surface, but it was already brewing inside of you. No matter how far you tried to push it down, lock it behind doors, the person speaking to you is striking a chord within your being that is making that come up. Because again, if you are completely fine in the life that you're living, and you have no shame about it, whether it's your appearance, the way you dress, the clothes you wear, your weight, your sexual partners, if you are 100% fine within it, there's nothing to bring up, because there's no dissonance within you. It's when you know I am better than this, that is when the byproduct of shame comes from. That's where that comes from. Whether it's one person telling you or many people telling you, and it comes in different forms. It could be a person really close to you being super, super honest that brings it up. And it could be a bunch of trolls that are trying to elicit that reaction out of you, and it's working because the seed is there. It's already there. But at the end of the day, you can have a bunch of trolls flooding my page talking about, oh, well, you're ugly. And I'll be like, I know I'm not. So there's no way you can shame me for that, because this space is pretty top tier.
It's pretty good. It's a pretty good one.
You just got a heart for that. But well done.
Like, I think that to take what you said even a step further, we're taking so many steps today. It's beautiful. Think about why they're shaming you. And instead of being offended, try and be like, hey, why are you pointing this out? Why are you trying to make me feel bad about this? Do you feel some way in yourself? Are you upset? Like, don't always take such offense to it. Maybe try and take a step. It's all that age-old saying, walk a mile in their shoes and see how they're living. And it doesn't always, if I call you, hey, you're fat, maybe I think I'm fat. Maybe I'm just trying to project on people.
Yeah, you're trying to get the eyes
I'm a
off
little
of you
overweight.
onto someone else. Yeah.
Well, I mean, in school, like what I work with bullies or whatever, and it's like you get to the bottom of it. There's a reason for that behavior. Neuroscientists are saying that all behavior is a form of communication, or at least all bad behavior from youth is a form of communication. And he's saying that the reason why people do that is because someone was an asshole to them, and then that's just how we just have to transfer power. But one thing that I appreciate about you, Chris, is that the way that you are is that you're being honest, and you're actually trying to help your friend out.
Yes,
like it's the honesty, while it can be like brisk, it's with purest intentions.
Yeah,
some people do it just to be an asshole.
Yeah, that's like to what Jesse was saying. It's within yourself. Ask the person who's saying this to you, what is their intent? If you know that person, you know that most likely their intent is not to hurt and damage you. If you don't know the person, if they're just being an asshole, it's to damage you. So take it with a grain of salt.
Right.
But yeah, if it's a close friend, if I'm if I'm saying something to you as a close friend, it's because I see that you're not living up to your potential, and you're hurting yourself. Like if you were snorting copious amounts of cocaine every week, and you have a daughter and a wife, and if I said nothing because I'm drug shaming him, what friend would I be? No, it's
hell
like,
yeah.
What the fuck are you doing? You have a family and you're snorting cocaine by the pound, every week.
Yeah.
What the fuck is wrong with you? And if that brings up shame within you, good. I've done my job.
So yeah, shame can be a good thing.
Amen to that. Yeah. No, 100%.
It's shame.
Also, how are you affording pounds of this stuff?
That's what I.
Wow.
Teacher salary is what?
Good.
Yeah. What's it called? OnlyFans?
OnlyFans. Oh, well, we know that Rob doesn't have an ass. He's not getting anything on OnlyFans. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I've
shaped
looked
like
for
an
Rob's
ironing
OnlyFans.
board.
It doesn't exist. I looked for it, man. I couldn't find it.
Well, so what made you, Chris? Because this is the one that you threw out. What inspired you to bring this up?
I'm tired of this generation whining about everything, shaming, and oh my God, you have to stop the shame culture, and it's just shame. You're saying that because you're ashamed about something and you're not willing to put the effort to change it. That's what that is. At the end of the day, stop thinking that life is going to be easy and that, it's everybody else is the problem. It's not me. Look inside first and stop making everybody else wrong. If everybody says the same thing to you, then everybody's lying? No. At the end of the day, yes, there are societal and cultural norms that don't necessarily translate to every culture. But if the people that are start with the people closest to you. If the people closest to you are saying the same thing over and over, that you know what, maybe you should kind of slow it down. You kind of, you're fucking around with 15 guys or women every week. It's not the healthiest thing. Start there. But it's like you can't talk about anything nowadays without it without it being like you're shaming this person. And it's just like sometimes things need to be shamed because the people closest to you know that you can be better than that, and you're living a half life. And you're normally, when people are doing things, it's because they're trying to hide something, or they're trying to deal with trauma, but they're not dealing with it in the right way. And excess of anything is not good. Excess of food, excess of sexual partners, excess of drugs, of alcohol. You're trying to cover something, and now it's manifesting in really toxic ways. Right. So if a person is telling you you're better than that, it's not like, oh, well, you're shaming them. At the end of the day, yes, I am. And what? So the fuck what? Yes, I am shaming you because I know you can be better. And if you don't like it, I guess don't talk to me again. I will sleep just fine. I promise you, on very high thread count sheets.
Well, I mean, yeah.
And I said what I said.
I said what I said.
I said what I said.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we got to stop people.
If Sophia was not living up to her full
100%.
potential, or if
she was
Sophia as a toddler was 100 pounds over what her age group should be, would you just? Oh, I can't.
No, 100%. And the other thing is too, like I was saying earlier, it's the world can be a nasty place, right? We cannot coddle our children. Like, we have to be there and be secure. Attachments in their lives, like not going out and getting shit pissed every weekend, right? You have to be in their lives, but show them like the world outside can be a harsh place. I'll always be here, but the world outside will be a harsh place. Not I'll always be here and nothing's going to happen. Like, what was that show, Chris? WandaVision. Yeah. WandaVision. And like, there's a war going on outside, but he has the kids watching these like 1950 shows. A delusion. And it's like, yes, it was a delusion. And watching this as a parent, it's like, oh man, my heart breaks because he's just trying to protect his kids. But it's like, it's back to it. The road to hell is paved in good intentions.
Exactly. And sometimes
it didn't say it in the end because a bomb got dropped on.
That's the thing. And sometimes you need to just, you know what? This might hurt this person initially, but imagine if this leads to this is the catalyst for them bettering their lives, for them getting their health on track, for them examining themselves. And maybe, you know what? Get therapy and deal with the thing that you're trying to mask. What if my honesty, which brings up their shame, leads to them being a better person? And that's what I think that we should focus on, because, at the end of the day, once the thing happens that you were trying so hard to not offend or hurt their feelings or not shame them, once it happens, you're not going to be able to retroactively go back once it's too late and be like, I wish I would have just said it. You can't. It's too late.
Right. Damn. Chris on parenting, on life advice.
Just saying, not all shame is bad. It's your perspective and what you do with it. So go ahead.
How do we get away from where we're going? Because again, like to say, like there's countries out there that look at our culture, North American culture, whatever you'd like to call this. Soft and
toughen the fuck up. I want all these people who are talking about all these shaming things. Go live in a West Indian country. Go live in an African country. Go live in a country that is just brutally honest, and not only see how they deal with things, in that regard, but just see their life and then see in the grand scheme of things in their daily life, if fat shaming is the thing that's hurting you the most after you live a day in Haiti, in Haiti, or a day in and a day in Israel or Palestine. You think in Israel and Palestine they give a fuck about fat shaming? Do you think they give a fuck? Really?
No time. You got no
There's
time
no
for that.
time. We're so soft. We have everything. We're worried about slut shaming and fat shaming and drug shaming. They're worried about is the bomb going to make my going to take my family out today? They've got actually legit problems, that they're dealing with.
I read something that this guy had 2 kids and his brother had 2 kids in Palestine, and they traded kids. They traded one of each because he said, I know this is a horrible thing to think, and you should never have to think this as a parent. But if we get bombed or you get bombed, at least one of my kids lives. Like, that's where in the world would you think that that's okay in North America? Where in North America would that be okay?
We would never.
It should be okay anywhere.
Yeah.
No.
We would never. That's the thing.
No.
We have it so good that we invent shit to be upset about. We have it so good. There's no threat of any of this happening to us that we invent shit to be upset about. Things that it's just like, toughen the fuck up. If it's that bothersome to you, go find a therapist. They're paid to listen to your problems and help you figure them out. Go find a therapist if it's that detrimental to your existence. But again, put it in perspective, because across the world, I guarantee you it could be much worse. There are people whose problems are not, are they going to say I'm fat today? But if I drink this water, am I going to get cholera and die from it? Or should I just not drink it and die of dehydration? A real problem. Put it in perspective.
Yeah. Well, there was that meme, whatever, so many years ago, and it was like, my hand is too fat. I can't fit it into the Pringles bottle, so I have to tilt it upside down.
Yes.
Hashtag first world problems.
Yeah. First world problems, not a problem, by the way, not a problem.
However, you know what I will say, as in my role, absentee parents in anybody's life, like, think about, like, when you're a child, this is your perception of the world. You don't know what it's like to be in a developing country. So when your parents are not in your life as at that small of an age, or they're abusive, or whatever, that can create serious trauma that can manifest itself perhaps as overeating or drinking, et cetera, right?
And while it was not you who caused that, it's not your fault. It is 100% your responsibility to deal with that trauma so that it doesn't manifest itself in toxic forms in your life. It's not your fault, but it's 100% your responsibility to fix it.
Right. But that's also what I'm saying is that it is people's responsibility, but trauma when you're a child, like when you're a developing child, trauma anywhere, feeling unsafe, not having secure attachments, that would make anybody feel like the world is a dangerous place and I'm very anxious and stuff. And you're right about that, but it's like the same as in a developing country, people, the children who grow up from that, it is their responsibility, but how can they fix that? You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. In a developing country, and again, we're talking about actual problems versus, because they have to deal with that. But I'm talking about in first world North America, where everything is at our access. And while yes, you may have dealt with trauma, your resources and your accessibility to them is far greater than a developing country. So it's much
unless you're indigenous. Unless you're indigenous, or you're a minority group in an American country. Pardon me?
We have to take that into consideration. Yeah.
What I'm saying is that it's hard to, like, I know you're not doing this, but like, you say that you can't have contradictions, but so much of life is built on contradictions to make it work, right? And that's a problem, is that in a first world, in a developed country, there are still cultural groups that are living like they're in a developing country.
And your mentality may be that of a developing country as well.
Right.
You might keep a lot of turmoil in your mind that is just again, you have to sift through and figure it out, because at the end of the day, you are your first responder. You have to take care of yourself, and you have to have the mental, the maturity and the depth to examine and be like, you know what, this is affecting me and it's hurting me. I need to examine this and I need to figure it out. No one else is going to do it but you. Other people could suggest it, but you are the only person who's going to take the step to actually fix it.
The truth is, Chris, is everybody needs a friend like you in their lives.
Oh, well, I don't know if anybody
I mean that.
can handle a friend like me, but
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Is that because, like I said, the truth does hurt, but what's the aphorism? It will set you free.
Set you free every time, and it's going to hurt, but the feeling of the good
except
feeling
if you kill somebody.
Yeah. And then, it'll make you the feeling of once you hear the truth and you deal with it and process it, the after feeling is going to feel so much better that you're not going to remember what the hurt felt like of the truth. You're just going to remember that freeing feeling that it gave you.
That's unreal. You know what? So I've gotten to your point, Chris. Anytime I'm in an argument with somebody, I'm getting quicker at hearing their side of what they have to say. And I think that that's an amazing gift, because in any conflict, there's two sides, and in the middle therein lies the truth, right? So you speak your grievance. I'm getting faster at telling someone what a grievance is, and I'm getting even faster at hearing their side back, which is an amazing ability, because like you say, conflict is how you get better. Yes. Not always like, hey, gold medal, gold star. Like, you actually don't get better when you keep succeeding. You get better when you fail. Yeah. And then you try again, right? Yeah. Like, how many times to get to where you are, Chris, how many times did you have to fail at your dream?
Can't even count how many times.
Can't even count.
Yeah.
Right.
But what I have now is worth going through all of that. And that's what I'm saying, is that on the other side of shame is that feeling of, I've dealt with it, I am no longer ashamed of that, versus making all of society wrong, all of the people wrong. It's like, sometimes work on you. That's what's easier, fixing everyone else or fixing you? What's the easier of the options?
Are you into Buddhism, Chris?
Of all of the religious, I don't actually think that Buddhism is a religion, more so than a set of teachings. So I'm very much into that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, because I mean, that's pretty much like the mantra, the philosophy of Buddha, of followers of Buddha, is that you heal yourself, you heal the world.
Yes.
So,
absolutely.
Well, I'm just looking at the time here, and I wanted to close
30
it out.
minutes. Holy shit.
Well, we did a little preamble at the beginning there, so
yeah.
I think we're not going to hit 30 minutes.
Yeah. So yeah, like closing thoughts on this whole thing.
Yeah, I guess just to echo again what I said, is that change your perspective on shame. And again, if you have to go with the lowest common denominator. Is it everybody else that's wrong, or is it maybe something that you can work on? Because had I made everybody else wrong for when I felt, when my grandmother brought that up to the surface, no, it's like that Simpsons meme with Principal Skinner. He's like, oh, am I out of touch with with what kids are going through? And no, it's the children who are wrong. That's right. Essentially what's happening nowadays. It's like, no, it's them who are wrong. I have
everybody else.
It's not me. But that's the thing, is look inward first before you try to change all of society and make them wrong. Because I guarantee you, if you look inwards, you're going to find that thing that'll set you free.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
We all have work to do.
Yeah, absolutely. In shame, there is truth.
Yeah.
And in truth, there is freeness. So
spoken like a true liberal.
Big.
There we go.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Jesse, did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think it was Matthew McConaughey, who apparently we quote all the time, said he had a quote, or he had a speech to a high school graduating class, and the very first thing he said was, "Life is not easy. Don't ever try and make it. It's never going to be. It never has been, and it never will be." And so in saying that, I do agree, or I do think that a lot of shaming that people do comes from a hurt place. But I also think that we basically need to teach our kids that life's not going to be easy. Life's not going to be fun. Life's going to suck. People are going to be rude to you. And we need to stop having this culture that, trigger warnings and shaming and cancel culture, all these little things. I got to tell you, I worked in construction for a number of years. And do you think anybody gave a shit about how you felt?
Nope.
Hell no.
No.
Your boss told you to suck it up, take the thing out of your female biological body part, which, he shouldn't be able to say that, but they say it all the time, and move on and get on with it. And there is a certain level of truth to that. There's a certain level of truth to that, is get over it and get on with it. Grow up and get on with it.
Yeah. Anyone who told you that life was going to be easy lied to you, and you shouldn't be keeping them as a friend.
Mom, you lied to me. You said it was going to be great.
That said, and this is my philosophy to the core, is it combines Jordan Peterson and Gabor Mate, and that's that we all need secure attachments. The world can be a cruel place, right? So we need to make sure that kids grow up to be, resilient, but also have that secure attachment. And it's just like you say with your honesty, is that you're going to say it like it is, but you're not going to say it like it is and then ditch out of their lives. Like, you're still going to be there as long as they do their part in taking care of themselves. Yes. And you'll do your part in taking care of yourself. And that's a healthy friendship, or any relationship, is when you're both taking care of yourselves, which brings it back to, you can't be shamed about what you're unashamed of. Is that it? Or that way. Yeah. Well, thank you everyone for joining us once again. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Jesse. I would be lost in my own thoughts without you. For those of you who are on here, I see the chat's going crazy. That's unreal. You can email us for ideas for the show. The email is robsprobablywrong@gmail.com. And follow us on Instagram too, because we'll tell you like it is on there, right, Chris?
All the time. And next week's show, because we didn't get to it this time, we're going to examine why Nicki Minaj is the queen and Cardi B is trash, because I got a set of lyrics that I could show you why that is true.
I can't wait to host that.
Oh yes,
because I'm very well versed in both.
Okay, there we go.
What's better, Megadeth or Metallica?
I know not a single Megadeth song. I know one Metallica song, so I'm going to go Metallica.
Bro. Oh.
I know that the what is it? Off to Neverland. That's the one I know.
That's Enter Sandman. Great song.
There we go. Metallica.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening. Rob's probably wrong @gmail.com. That's it. All right. Thank you, everyone.